Hey, Sox fans, welcome back to Good Guys Talk Back. Hey, it's episode 257. I am Nick Murawski. This is a fan-centric Chicago White Sox podcast. We do it weekly Sunday nights live on our YouTube channel. Appreciate it if you subscribe, pass it along to other Sox fans in your life. The audio is absolutely everywhere. Hey, Sox Fest is coming back. We're going to get to that. Everybody is feeling the healthiest they've ever been in their lives. Some lofty goals for Yohan Moncada. Boy, we got a new voice of the White Sox. So much stuff to get to. With me, as always, good friend, diehard Sox fan, Pat Hester. Hello, sir.
Hey, buddy. Today we have two ex-right fielders celebrating birthdays, wondering if they'd like to come back. Could Mags play right field? Could Jermaine Dye come back and play right field? It would be fantastic. If maybe you sign them both, you could split time between them. That would be fantastic. They'd be probably better than anything that we currently have, or maybe will have on opening day.
That is a great point. It is interesting. They're both celebrating a birthday. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did it go Maglio? It went Maglio, then Jermaine Dye, right?
I believe so. I mean,
Detroit.
Yep.
And we were wondering that that was also the offseason, of course, that Carlos Lee was traded. Scott Pidsegna comes in. We're like, where's the power going to come from? What kind of team? They're trying to get fast, which, okay, this sounds very familiar with what's going on here in this offseason, but no comparison to Jermaine Dye. Wow. Would you say like extremely underrated? Maybe not by Sox fans, but maybe by Sox fans, because they forget about him and lost in the shuffle of, Konerko, Burley, Przinski, especially with that 05 team. But then in general, I mean, if we're talking Ring of Honor, which I hopefully they do one day, Jermaine Dye's in there, maybe even first class. Unbelievable tenure with the White Sox.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to, just because how many MVPs of the World Series do we have still alive? so that would probably put him in just because. But Jermaine Dye, when he was brought over to the White Sox, if you remember, he had that very gruesome injury, foul ball off I believe his shin. It shattered his I don't know, whatever bones was in his leg, and there was talks of he may never come back and play again, if I recall. And the speed was never there for them, because Jermaine Dye was close to a pretty 5-tool player, when he was healthy in his young career. And he was never, the speedster, or it was never the guy that was going to steal a lot of bases for you when he came over to the White Sox. But he played a hell of a right field, in my opinion, in terms of what he could do in covering the ground that he did. Smart player. Got good jumps on the ball, and he had a lot of power, for us, and he was exactly what we needed, and probably not rated highly enough, Nick, just because he wasn't very flashy. He was quiet. He just went out and did his job, and you could rely on him. He was a guy he could do, if you needed him to hit it to the right side and move a runner over, he could do that. If you needed him to hit it out of the ballpark, he could do that for you as well. And if you needed him to hit a little dribble or single up the middle to drive in the only run in Game 4 of a World Series, he could do that for you as well.
Yeah, I tell you what, man, he was a guy that would come up to bat. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, as a fan, where there'll be certain players, and maybe Frank Thomas is in there with probably everybody on their list, of you didn't have a worry. Like, he's going to do something good. I just have a feeling, like there's those guys that come up in these different situations, whether it's, hey, we just need to get a rally going, or we got ducks on and we need to get, some of that in late in the game. You just had a feeling somehow everything's in good hands with Jermaine Dye when he's up to bat, and things ended way too soon. He could have kept playing. And boy, we have not been able to figure out that right field position.
Again, it's hilarious that he was the last consistent right fielder that we've had in this town. Well, not in this town, in this side of the town. And we think of him glowingly, and it is too bad that his career didn't last a little bit longer with the Chicago White Sox. So happy birthday to him. Happy birthday to Maglio Ordonez. And Mags, went on to have a really good career still with Detroit afterwards. He went to a World Series with the Tigers. And you think about him, and boy, oh boy, the future was so bright for Maglio Ordonez. And I don't think the injury really did slow him down, but you can't really bring a guy back, like that if you're unsure of his health. So, uh, but again, it worked out just fine for the White Sox. But I would have loved to have seen Maglio Ordonez continue his career on the South Side. Not that Jerry ever would have paid him, but he was a rising star for that team.
Yeah. How about those days? Him coming up, and boy, we had something there. One of the first bobblehead, when they started doing the giveaways, the stadium giveaways, he might have been in the first class that first year they gave him away, 2001, 2002, something like that. There was a home Maglio Ordonez and an away Maglio Ordonez in the gray road jersey. So little something that I should have no knowledge about as a 43-year-old, but I do. It's that I pass that along to everybody if you care.
Got it. Noted.
Yeah. So as we record here on January 28th, we are exactly 2 months away, not from, maybe some spring training action or something, from opening day. We are 2 months away from opening day. And then, we'll talk a little bit about what that means. Did you consume a little bit of football, though, today on Championship Sunday, Pat?
Well, a little. I mean, it's a busy time here. We have travel baseball, Nick, and
sure.
we run a tight ship. We don't take days off on Sundays. We have practice. So I watched the second half of the second game today and the first half of the first game. And again, both entertaining for what I saw, because I saw the halves that were the most exciting halves of the game for both of them. But we're winding down here to the NFL season. It is time to turn our heads towards baseball in spring, and it's a good feeling, right? It's kind of like, for all that we've talked about for a lot of months, ever since the season ended, probably even before the season ended, Nick, about how down we are on this team. There is something to still get excited about, I think, for both of us as baseball fans and White Sox fans in particular, about the start of a new season. Because you and I will probably at some point talk ourselves into a little bit of positivity and what ifs, and maybe the ball will just continue to bounce our way all season, and we'll catch a stroke of luck, and everybody will have career years, and maybe the back of the baseball card stats that we've been waiting for some guys will return this year. And I don't know. I can't say that for certain, Nick, but hope springs eternal. I'm excited to, get your reports on a daily basis when you're out in Arizona and for spring training, and to break it all down for me. And, it is fun. And there has been some positive things that have happened in the past couple of days. They did have the season ticket holder event, which from what I saw on Facebook, seemed like it was a nice event for the season ticket holder folks. Lots of chatter about the new stadium, and where that's going. And the Dylan Cease discussions continue to ramp up now with the Mariners in the mix. I don't know if that's positive or not, but if you're getting a good haul from the Mariners, it is a positive. So though we've been kind of in the doldrums of some negativity, I mean, I guess there's been some positive things that have happened with the ball club and the optics of the ball club over the past week.
Yeah, I want to touch on some of those things and maybe go into depth on the C stuff, because I think it's a weekly talking point, because there's new little nuggets that pop up here and there that I think need to be addressed. So yeah, there was this little event for season ticket holders only all of a sudden, and I went on a rant, wrote an article for Future Sox. And that's great. You're going to have something for the season ticket holders. That's wonderful. How about something for all fans of all ages? Grow this a little bit. Get your product out there, even though maybe it's not the greatest product right now. But try to get the young fans, get all fans from everywhere. Folks that maybe aren't able to see the Sox on a regular basis. They're fans from all over the country. They get an opportunity to come in for the weekend, rub shoulders with like-minded people, and celebrate the team that they love. We haven't had a Sox Fest for several years. Every other team has been able to figure it out. Surprise, surprise. But it was announced, I think on Friday, just a few days ago, Sox Fest returning in 2025. Am I responsible for it? Probably to a certain degree. I, I think I think I'm somewhat responsible. It's back. You're welcome, all
Well,
of you. Get ready to spend all your
humble.
money.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So it's coming back on what would be, the 20th anniversary season of the 2005 team, and I saw a lot of stuff on social media from some folks that I don't know if they were unhappy with that, and we're just gonna celebrate this '05 team all over again. And look, hey, I want there to be a celebration of some acquisitions that will fill holes, that will advance this team. Okay. I would like to celebrate us moving in the right direction as a current organization, but it's a fan festival. And when you don't win a lot, okay, and you don't have you don't have very many World Series trophies in that case, and you still got a collection of guys that are pretty beloved, I have no problem celebrating a 20th anniversary with Konerko and Burley and Rowan and whoever else decides to show up. I hope there's all of them, including the skipper and everybody else that was involved in that managerial staff. I got no problem with that. I mean, it's not their fault. It's not the '05 team's fault that this organization hasn't been able to figure it out since. I'm not going to hold them to fault. If they want to celebrate it, I would be there celebrating with it next year at Sox Fest.
Yeah, and I'm happy that it's coming back, and I know you were excited, and I think you did have everything to do with it. So you should again touch them all, and tip your cap to the crowd, and accept all the praise that you're going to get for it, Nick. So it's great to. You're right on all those accounts, because had they not, Nick, and it was the 20th anniversary, could you imagine the venom that would have come out from this fan base that feels like it every other day it's getting kicked in the nuts? I mean, I couldn't imagine it if they foregoed it another year when you can't get that opportunity back to do a 20th. We'll do a 21st anniversary, I guess. You can't do that. So good on the White Sox for finally figuring that out and listening to their fans, because I think there was, they could probably say, well, we don't pay attention to maybe, social media and whatever. I'm sure that they do. And I'm glad that their fans were heard enough to come back and do this. So that's at least a positive thing. So, and you could also look at it this way too, Nick, depending on, where Getz feels like they are in this rebuild, next year could be a more exciting year. I'm not saying in terms of money that will be spent, because that will never happen, but it could be a more exciting year depending on what they get back in a cease trade on young players. And it could be the, Montgomery coming out party next year in 2025 and really have an opportunity to pump his tires up a little bit at Sox Fest. And who knows, it could be talking about, young prospects and a new look White Sox team and going in a different direction. And I don't know if that means that they'll go from last place to third place in a year, or if that just, what that will ultimately mean. But I think the look of the team, boy, I hope so, would be a little bit more positive in terms of, what we're expecting and, in terms of wins and losses, in 2025 versus 2024. So it's a good year to kind of bring it back. It all makes sense. Everything's out there with the 20-year anniversary, and this team hopefully turning a little bit of a corner. I wouldn't say they're going to be right back in the thick of things next year, but I would hope the ship will be turning in the right direction by then.
Yeah, I hope, absolutely. Boy, if it's not, yikes. Thank you so much for the folks joining us live in the comments. Hello to Howard, Sydney, Peyton. We do this again on Sunday nights on our YouTube channel. Subscribe and join us. So yeah, Bob Nightingale, I think, had some new stuff on Dylan Cease, the Seattle Mariners entering in this, possibly Yankees, Orioles type of race for the services of our ace, Dylan Cease, which our fearless leader, Pedro Grifol, has already given the nod to for opening day. Of course, if he is going to be in a White Sox uniform. Yeah, I look at it as, and again, I'm not somebody that's following these prospects very closely. There's some excellent people, at Future Sox, Ian Eskridge and James Fox and Danny Miller and others that are doing this, and they've done it so well for so many years. I'll tip my, just toe in the water a little bit. But look, I've been there, done that. I can't get too caught up on prospects once again. Wake me up when they're at 35th and Shields. So I whatever Getz is trying to get, and if he's leveraging one team against another, and right now it might be one team against just the calendar. Like we're 2 months away. Pitchers and catchers are reporting in like 2 weeks, somewhere around Valentine's Day. Is a team that wants Dylan Cease willing to let him go into camp and everything in a White Sox uniform, let Dylan Cease get away from them, pitch in meaningful games, and know that this is probably not going to get done until the trade deadline, where other teams might start like, hey, we're kind of in it. Maybe we should be in the Dylan Cease race. Then you're swatting all different kinds of teams off. So I look at it as it might be more against the calendar. I think the Orioles probably have the most amount of prospects with the teams that are mentioned, but Seattle's got kind of a nutso owner that's just like a Dan Campbell from the Lions, which I love. I love Dan Campbell, even though he blew a 17-point lead. It wasn't his fault. Passes were dropped and they couldn't convert. Sure, he went for it on fourth, but you know me, Pat, I'd be doing that. I love
I know
that.
you would.
I didn't really care if the Lions won or lost. I just loved, be aggressive. Anyway, Seattle's got somebody running the show over there that they're not afraid to make these types of trades. So with Seattle now in it, maybe this heats up Baltimore a little bit.
Well, it'll be interesting, Nick, because I don't know what the motivation of any of the teams would be to get it done now. Like what really is there? What is going to make them move right now? I mean, I don't know what benefits them by making the decision or trying to push for this now, or really making their best offer. I don't know. I could be missing something, but I don't think that there's a sense of urgency that they have to make this move before the season starts, because it might make a little more sense if I'm that team to say, I'm the Orioles, right? I won that division last year, if memory serves, right? The Orioles won the East. We're talented enough to go out there and win it again. If I'm the
But is
Orioles,
that your goal, just to win the division?
No, but I'm just saying, if I'm the Orioles, I would imagine I'm going to be in the race, up until the trade deadline, and then I'll kind of survey the landscape, and if I need to make a move to either get in the playoffs or whatever it is, then I make that move. Then I don't really know what it benefits them to make the move now. To me, I don't know, but I do think it's interesting. Two teams in the same division vying for his services, because I think that is, to me, as the White Sox, makes me get a little bit more giddy. If I have two teams in the same division fighting over my player, then I can play everybody against each other, right? And that's a great place to be. So again, I think that's a great scenario when you've got Yankees and Orioles both wanting the same guy. I think that's a good thing. So, if I'm the Yankees, maybe I am a little more motivated to get that guy now, because, I haven't really been in the conversation in a while, and I'd like to pull out ahead of the Orioles the best if I can, right? I'd like to pull ahead and be in a comfortable position and take that early lead in the division early on in the year. So maybe that would motivate them. I don't know. It's interesting. It's gonna be fascinating to see how it all unfolds. But I don't really know. I don't know really where the people are going to be standing when the music stops.
Yeah, the legendary Bruce Levine said this past weekend that he feels a 0% chance that Dylan Cease will start the season with the White Sox.
Wow,
So
Bruce.
Yeah, how about it?
That's quite a prediction to make and put it at 0% chance. I mean, that's pretty strong. And
I just feel like there's teams
connected.
that are like, I don't want Dylan Cease to start with anybody else. I'm gonna make this happen. we're going to start the season and have Dylan Cease for the entire season. I don't want any other team jumping in the race to come trade deadline. But to your point, yeah, I can see it too. What's the motivation? The only motivation is some team like maybe Seattle that says, screw it, I'm just going to do it now. I want this guy, and I'm going to make an offer that they just cannot refuse right now, because that is who I want. I want it. I'm not playing games. There are no more games being played. Now, Chris Getz might just say, well, we got time. We can play games. So
Yeah.
I this is the first I've heard of the Seattle Mariners involved. So yeah, as the world turns with Dylan Cease and our Southsiders,
I mean,
there's been, yeah, go ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was going to talk play by play, but if you had something more on,
No, I'm just, I mean, I don't know. I just don't know where this is going to go. I just feel like we've been talking about it for so many weeks now, and it just, new rumors here. It seems like it dies off. It comes back. I just really can't. I mean, I don't know. I'm not connected like Bruce Levine is, but I don't know how you can put a 0% chance that he's not on this ball club on opening day. But anyway, move on. Go ahead.
well, do you, as a fan, from your fan perspective, have you changed at all? Have you taken a different stance? Do you want to see Cease start the year with the Sox, and maybe something better comes along at the trade deadline, or do you want to just kind of move on from that?
I have the fear of him getting hurt. I really do. I mean, we've talked a lot about it. He has logged a lot of, he's been a guy that's going to log innings for you, right? And he's going to get out there and he's going to go out there every fifth day. He hasn't to this point been an injury guy. And, with our team, maybe it's, scar tissue and then the wounds of the past of guys just going down left and right. They think, wow, I'd hate to start the season with this guy and let him and there's an opportunity for him to lose value, our biggest chip to lose value before we can actually cash it in. So I would at this point, as I sit here on January 28th,
you live and breathe, yeah,
as I would like to see him move before the season starts.
Okay, there you go. I'm with that camp as well. I really am. And again, in terms of prospects, I don't believe Seattle's farm system is talked about in the best in baseball. Some might call it an underrated farm system. There's some names I've heard. There's you got to get some pitching, maybe outfield. Guy by the name of Miller. Again, I'm just starting to poke around a little bit, but it's going to be more than warm bodies because the Sox want some top prospects. And, people are saying the Sox want the sun and the moon and everything else, which I think they're entitled to. But, I mean, Dylan Cease is very, very good. He's not great. The market has been very thin this offseason, and I think there are some teams that are going to get desperate very soon, Pat, as, the calendar flips to pitchers and catchers, February 15th, 16th, something like that.
I like Peyton's comment. Can the moon come and play right field? And Peyton's asking, who would we want to see from the Seattle system? You're not going to get that from a guy like me. I have no idea what they have in their system. You'd have to, once the trade is actually made and it's to Seattle, I'm going to have to wait and see what guys that are educated and know, first of all, what we get, how far they are away from, being on a big league club, whether it's this club or another club. And you never know what you're going to get in prospects. It is what it is. You could tell me this guy is the worst prospect in somebody's system and they come and flourish somehow. Or this is a can't miss prospect and they could be a bust. So I have no idea who they might get or how many players they're looking for, or, Nick, if they're looking for major leaguers for Dylan Cease. I don't even know if that's an opportunity, because if you remember, they were talking about addressing right field and second base via the trade possibly. So, I don't know what that might bring as well.
That's been happening for a while. I put a little graphic together and threw it out there, almost mimicking those shirts that were so hot, 6 years ago or something. Aloy and Cease and Kopech and Robert and on and on. Maybe Birdie's name was in there and Madrigal. And wow, did we have something? And we were the talk of the town. And right now, this off season, DeYoung, Lopez, Fuddy, Maldonado, and Beria. For those that want Getz to cook, I mean, he's been cooking. I just don't know if anything's really appetizing. I don't know. I mean, he's doing basic stuff. I think a lot of Sox fans, if you talk to them and you're actually going to have a good conversation and not just like, Sox suck. Okay, I know. No. You're actually going to get, a little bit of an in-depth. Defense should be better, right? Defense should be better with this team. Hopefully, a little quicker. But those are hope. I don't know. Again, it's are these guys going to buy into whatever system Grifol and Getz and everybody else can put in place? Are the new folks, did they get rid of the folks that weren't listening to Pedro Grifol? Does now Pedro Grifol have control? It can be the leader he's supposed to be. A lot of this stuff, I can't even believe we're talking about it. But this guy's still in charge. He's still our manager. And for his sake, I hope he gets the people that he can control and that will buy into what he's trying to do. And there's still some time. But I feel like with 2 months left, we're running out of it.
Well, if we're talking about letting Getz cook, what kind of meal would be equivalent to what he's been cooking? I wrote down Dino Nuggets and Kraft mac and cheese. Dino Nuggets are huge in my house, Nick. You got to love a good Dino Nugget. If you do them in the oven, they're fantastic.
Of course.
And nothing is better than a good box of Kraft mac and cheese. I could eat a whole box.
Sure, I know.
I don't want to. I feel very guilty afterwards. But that's what I mean. It's still cooking. It's still cooking. But
that's a wonderful question, Pat. I think when it comes to what type of meal Getz is cooked, it's got to be safe. It's got to be easy to do because this is low-hanging fruit, some of the stuff that he's been pulling off. This is a grilled cheese and tomato soup meal. Okay, this is you make grilled cheese on the stove, pretty simple, and then you heat up a can of soup. There's your meal. Soup and sandwich. It's soup and a sandwich. Soup and a sandwich.
Okay. How about like one of those Encore family size like Salisbury steaks? Would that be too? Would that be too much? I mean, they take like an hour.
Too meaty. Yeah.
Too meaty.
Too meaty.
Okay.
I mean, if Whit Merrifield comes aboard, then I'll give you the Salisbury steak, the lean cuisine, or a Stouffer's lasagna family style.
Oh,
I'll give you that.
Those are great. Yeah. Don't cut it. Don't try and eat it too quickly because it will be like molten lava going down your esophagus.
I love that you take a bite, realize that this is hot lava, and just power through it. And just
you could either spit it out, or you could
just swallow it and just let it burn everything inside. Yeah. Well,
anyway, let's get back on topic.
Choices, Pat. I think what you wanted to do was segue into choices, and the Sox had some choices with their play-by-play guy. There were 3 of them in the running, and we put our money on Connor McKnight. That's who we wanted to see, just with his familiarity with the White Sox. I feel like he's been around Chicago. He's been around the team. I thought it was a very Sox way. I'm not saying that Connor McKnight was not necessarily qualified. I think he'll probably even admit, he's got a lot to learn in the play-by-play world, but that's the White Sox way, right? You've been in the system and we're going to kick you up like they did with Chris Getz. But I like Connor McKnight. I think he does a nice job. It seems like he pairs well, with whoever he's with in the booth. And I think he's only going to get better once you feel comfortable because it's your gig. I mean, I don't know if you've ever, had that where you've maybe, been in training or you're just not, you don't feel it because it's not yours yet. It's not your job. And then once you get it, you kind of come into your own. So, and I thought that was going to happen with Connor. Anyway, Connor didn't get it. John Schriffen, you're probably all aware of this. You've read the articles. You've heard about this guy. I don't know much about him, but boy, he's rocking the turtleneck and blazer. Did you see his file photo? The black the black turtleneck.
Yeah.
Is that look back? Is it ever left? I know
Well,
Wilbon on PTI has been wearing it for like 20 years, but if that turtleneck blade, I like that look. I kind of think I want to do that look just in social situations, out to dinner, turtleneck, big, like kind of fisherman turtleneck in a
yeah.
blazer. Is
I
that
wouldn't suggest it in summer, but I mean, if you want to do that, you know what, Nick, maybe, what episode is this? 257.
257?
Maybe for our 300th episode, we never went
Uh,
out and had a nice big steak dinner, you and I, to
that's true.
celebrate a
Yeah.
milestone of some sort.
Yeah.
But maybe we do that, and we both wear some big old turtlenecks and a jacket like two gentlemen would wear, and have a wonderful meal together. I think
Yeah.
that'd be great. Yeah, why not? Let's bring him back. Everything comes back, Nick.
I like
Everything
the
does.
look. I like the look. He's wearing it. That's wonderful. I'm not in the fashion world. I don't think that's a shocker to
No,
anybody that knows me.
I thought maybe you moonlighted as some type of in the fashion world type guy.
Most of my clothes are just stadium giveaway stuff.
You're wearing clothes from high school right now.
Yeah.
You're wearing your high school sweatshirt.
Yeah. Everybody's got stuff that they've held on to for like 30 years. It's still comfortable, and you wear it around the house. Before you know it, it becomes like a regular thing. It happens.
There you go. I'm not saying anything, but yeah, that's where your fashion's at. It's
so John Schriffen, welcome to the South Side. Not a lot of baseball experience, Pat. Hasn't done a lot of.
Why would you? Why would you need it? Why would you need it?
White Sox way.
Here's the thing, and I'm not going to get off on a tangent too much about it, but obviously for me personally, I was pulling for Connor McKnight, teammate of mine. You know, I was hoping he would get it, and because of that, it would open up other opportunities for other folks within our organization. There's no doubt about it. You know, and it was talked about on the air this past week on Carmen New Yorko. Carm said that Connor interviewed for the Tigers job. So, you know, he had an opportunity to leave as well. So there will be a time that Connor eventually gets a play-by-play gig.
So that tells you that's what he wants.
Yeah.
It's not just a White Sox gig. He wants a play-by-play gig.
And I don't want to speak for Connor. And maybe, you know, I'm wrong. Maybe he had an opportunity. He needed to take the interview because somebody asked him. But, you know, eventually he's going to get a play-by-play gig somewhere, because I feel like, you know, just from hearing that, it tells me that that's what he wants to do. So I was hoping he would get it. And it does frustrate me a little bit that you bring in a guy, again, seemingly with little, you know, play-by-play experience in baseball. Not that, you know, baseball is probably not the hardest game of all to do play-by-play for. I would imagine it's slow. You can fill in the blanks with some stories, but boy, oh boy, is this just the Sox way? Like, let's give a guy that has zero experience doing something an opportunity to do something. I just
They've
don't
been doing it. I mean, look at Pedro Grifol. You know, he never managed before in Major League Baseball. We give him his first gig. Chris Getz, here's your first gig, sir, as GM ever. You know, would he ever get that role anywhere else in all of baseball? And John Schriffen, who, you know, he's got a resume. He seems like an affable guy. It sounded like there was a grand dinner between Stone and Reinsdorf, and everybody had a good time. Jokes were had. It was a lot of pleasantries and good chemistry, and that's ultimately what I want. I want there to be good chemistry between play-by-play and Steve Stone. So I think, you know, it was slam ball, was Schriffen doing slam ball and XFL and some KBO, and maybe did a little bit of like MLB for ESPN, but he's never had like a team. Like, this is his first, like, you know, this is my first gig. Is, you know, when I was a teacher so many years ago, you know, and I would start out as a substitute teacher, and I never really felt like, well, like I've got a home, like I have an actual teacher. It's like, well, I'm teaching, you know, but it was when I first got that first teaching gig and like my own classroom and everything. That's when you feel like you've kind of made it as a teacher. So he's made it now in Major League Baseball. And this is some of the stuff he had to say. They, meaning I'm sure the White Sox, wanted to know, first off, my commitment. That was a big thing off the bat, Schriffen said. Obviously, I have a national platform with ESPN. They wanted to know what kind of commitment I was willing to make to the White Sox. And I said, I'm all in. If I'm the guy, I'm going to be all in. Right now, I plan on calling the majority of the games. We don't have an exact number, but I want to be the voice and face of the Chicago White Sox broadcast, and the goal is to be there throughout September. It was very clear, and that's something I talked with Jerry about very early on. Whoever he hired, he wanted to make sure that that person, this was going to be their main priority. And I said, I am very clear on that. That's the agreement we had very early on and during this process, and that's the understanding that we have. Give some time, Shriffen said, and I think you guys are going to enjoy what you see on TV. I'll disagree with that, Shriffen. I might enjoy what I hear, but I will not enjoy what I see on TV, probably for another year or so. Anyway, is that a shot to Benetti a little bit? Like, was that kind of like a shot of, I don't want somebody that's going to be off doing a bunch of other things. I want somebody that's going to be a White Sox guy, no matter how big Benetti was.
Yeah,
I want a White Sox person.
Jerry is very passionate, from what I understand, about the broadcast and how it sounds. And I think he wants it to sound a certain way. If you listen to Shriffen in his the video that was put out, I'm sure on social media, maybe a couple different ones, but the people that he says he draws inspiration from, it was a lot of old time baseball broadcasters. And I think that's probably what sold him to Jerry, because Jerry is, romanticizes baseball from way back when he was a Brooklyn Dodgers fan. And that's what Jerry grew up knowing, and the nostalgic that is of people calling baseball. And I think Jerry has it in his way of how he wants the game to sound, and he wants to sound, the way, that maybe tugs at his heartstrings a little bit.
So you think the interview is the demo has to be done like Jerry's in in his office, like sitting crisscross on the floor with a little transistor radio, pretending like he's 10 years old in Brooklyn, and Shriffen had to do a game like it was being called on the transistor radio, and
yeah. Now up is the Whamma. The Whamma is 2 for 3 today, and the Whamma whams it.
What was this? Who did the was kind of the play-by-play and everything in A League of Their Own? Was it Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley?
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely 100% correct.
He had that old-timey kind of shtick about him.
Yeah.
Maybe Brockmeyer, if you watch that program, which is kind of funny.
So, I think Jerry has a way he wants it to sound, and the way that it was presented by Jason Benetti was just probably not the way that he wanted the broadcast to again, go out to the masses or to go out to him. It's just not his style, and that's okay. It's your brand. It's your team. You want it to be, broadcast a certain way. I get it. I understand that, but I don't know.
Question asked in the chat here, Pat. Curious of how much what Jerry wants overlaps with what the fans want. Personally, it's Jerry's way or the highway, man. I mean, he talks a game of owe it to the fans, got to do this for the fans. It is Jerry all the way. He might be aware, or someone might tell him in his collection of people of what is trending in terms of fans. I don't think he gives a rip. And you know what? It's his dime, his dance floor, as the great Chet Kopic would say. So that it's just sad that he's just so out of tune, just completely lost. And everybody else that he's kept around into what the fans really want. I don't know if you had an opinion on if you think there's an overlap or you just think it's Jerry's way.
It's definitely Jerry's way. I honestly, I don't think Jerry gives a hoot about what you or I say, and that's fine. That's what people with lots of money usually are like. They really don't care about what you or I care about. They have a business to run. They're going to run it the way they want to run it, and that is what it is. So that's what we have to deal with as fans.
Yeah. I'm gonna switch to health, Pat. Something you and I know A little bit about, not a lot.
I know how to
And
I know how to stay alive.
I know how to spell health. And this is the time of year where we try to find a right fielder, we try to find a second baseman, and we hear about a lot of White Sox players that are living their best life. They're the
Mhm.
healthiest they've ever been. They're all of a sudden cured of all these different ailments and aches and pains, and everything is going great for them, which is wonderful to hear. But it's a little bit of an eye roll, or more than an eye roll. We had a collection of White Sox players had like a weird impromptu Sox fest at a gymnasium on the South Side. I don't know if you saw the picture of that.
Yeah.
I was able to pinpoint Benetti. I couldn't figure anybody else out in that lineup. But there were a lot of opportunities for players to pop off on, some quotes and things that are happening with them in the off season. And your usual suspects, Pat. One, namely, Eloy Jimenez.
Mm.
And this was, I think he did on AJ Brzezinski's Foul Territory
Yeah.
podcast, where, and this is just a snippet of what he was talking about. If I'm healthy, I can hit more than 40 home runs. So there's this like sense of, well, if I don't even know if I will, let's be honest, if, but have you ever played that game? It's just as every average human where you've said to yourself, Pat, if I'm the healthiest I could ever be, or if I'm healthy, like what's the thing that you would do? Like what's the magnificent thing, or when at your healthiest,
Mhm.
what did you do that, like, now since I'm healthy, I can do this, and I don't
Wow,
think
if
I'll
I
ever be
could
able
run
to do
for 5 consecutive minutes, Nick, I think that would be great. Just to be able to
and to
to run.
survive,
I would
and to
love to run.
survive after that.
I would love to be able to do that. That'd be fantastic. I can walk. I'm not a cripple or anything like that, but boy, if I could just run, Nick, that would be super. And it's interesting you went the way of Aloy. I stopped Jesse Rogers the other day. I said, Jess, what is going on with the market for Aloy Jimenez? And
Mhm.
really, I don't expect to trade for him. We talk about Dylan Cease
Yeah.
being moved, and he said, you're getting pennies on the dollar for Aloy Jimenez at this point. So there's no reason to hold your breath that you think that they're going to get rid of him. So he is going to be your DH most likely for this team. And dare I say, depending on what happens, he possibly could be your right fielder, which scares the living bejeebies out of me. But
Yeah.
Aloy Jimenez is going to be here next, so we have to hope that he is somewhat healthy and hope that he has a good first half because, um, we've been waiting so long for one, the health, and that's a big question all the time, but the consistency too. Well, boy, if we could, and you could move off of him, because I don't think it's sustainable, right? If you could move off of him by the trade deadline, if he had a fantastic first half,
That's the
I
dream.
would love.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be great because what playoff team isn't looking for some power going into the playoffs and finally going, oh, maybe this guy's really figured it out. He is in the best shape of his life, and he is this and he is that, and the potential is there, and bring him on our team. I would love that because I just don't see him staying healthy long enough to help our ball club for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. Great insight. Great points. Eloy Jimenez was talked about early on. It seemed like he was shopped around the Milwaukee Brewers and maybe some other teams. I think either kicked the tires or there was some chatter about that. And I mean, we joke about it, but yeah, if you are healthy, you probably can do all that and more. But that's been the problem. If we haven't seen it, you haven't been able to do it consistently. And I can't believe any of this stuff. It's just more fun to just talk about, like, here goes Eloy Jimenez again, talking about if he's healthy. We've seen this before. And I hope someone talked to him this offseason again and said, dear friend, you are not a right fielder. You want to be a right fielder. We can't have you be a right fielder. We want your valuable bat. You do have a ton of pop. If you can just stop hitting into double plays and ground balls and all that stuff. If we could elevate the ball and you could be roping the ball in the gap and over the fence and you can, yeah, but I think your shot at health, is DH. Now, Eloy has gotten himself into some interesting injuries, doing all kinds of things, running to first, namely. So anything can happen with this guy, but I want to see him healthy. I'd love to see what Eloy Jimenez could do healthy. I mean, we saw what Luis Robert Jr. was able to do healthy. How amazing was that? I'd love to see if Eloy could play in 85% of the games, if not more. Wow, I'd love to see it, and I hope he proves all of us wrong. Put up 45 home runs. That'd be wonderful.
I would be curious because I did not. I'd like to go back and see the interview that he had with AJ on the show, but I guess I'd ask, what have you been doing differently, or what have you done differently to kind of prepare your body to be healthy for the season? Because if you continue to go into the season doing what you've been doing, I don't know what's going to change. I mean, it's been he dropped weight last year, right? That was the thing. He's gonna drop weight, but then the power kind of went with the drop of weight, right? And but the legs still never seem to be able to keep up with the body.
Would I be able to suggest, and I have probably no business suggesting this to a professional athlete, and maybe he does it already, but like yoga or flexibility, kind of, something with your ligament, just stretching, advanced stretching. Yeah, I've heard about the weight gain and the muscle and eating. Wasn't there some dietary stuff he was doing? He was off something and he was losing weight. I feel like I want to say that to a lot of Sox players, is like, get on some sort of large rubber band exercise program, get on like a hot yoga. I need you flexible.
And we've talked about it on the show before. That was what Tom Brady has been doing for years. And look how
the large rubber bands.
I think it was lots of rubber bands.
Love it. Great.
Possibly large ones. I'm not sure. But I do know that was the main thing of TB12. The guy he still is in fantastic shape for his age. And a lot of the reason why he was able to be so durable and take the hits and the punishment that he did take for as long as he took was he was big on the flexibility of the body. It wasn't about building the muscle on top of your body and weighing it down. It was about being flexible. And I think in baseball, that's even more important than anything else is how flexible you can be.
Who run into a problem with that, Pat, was Giolito. When he bulked up, when he put on all that weight, upper body weight, I just is like that. He looks like a beast, but there's a lot of torque, there's a lot of whip, there's a lot of movement, especially when you are, at full blast as a pitcher, and you're just trying to, outthrow everything all the time, max effort. You have to be flexible, man. And he did something to his oblique. But then you got Lance Lynn. So I don't know. That's a great question. It's like, what have you been doing? What have you thrown into the repertoire? What's new? And I think we'd have to ask Yoan Moncada that too, Pat, a guy that you really enjoy and love. Yoan Moncada, living that healthy life. Moncada said he's feeling good after being bothered by back issues last year. I'm motivated and excited because I'm healthy. If I'm healthy, I know I can do a lot of good things in the field. I think God has saved something good for me. Hopefully, we are going to see that. Now, look, I love his glove. I've talked about it. I think he should have been in, Gold Glove conversation. Maybe not winning a Gold Glove, but he should be nominated. He should have been up there. Yes, it looks like he takes plays off. It looks like he loafs from time to time. But I also think what we have there at the hot corner. You got to realize the history of third baseman that we've had since, maybe Joe Creedy, right? Yoan Moncada's got a solid glove. He's got to be there, focus all the time. It's the bat issue, and then it's the health issue, right, with the back and everything else. So when you hear a quote like this, again, where does your mind go, Pat, as a fan?
Well, I mean, I feel like I should talk to God too about this, because if Yoan's talking to him, I think I should say, dear Lord, if you can keep Johan's back in serviceable state, that'd be fantastic. Really would appreciate it. That'd be solid. So if that would be where I what I do first. Second, you know, again, I love it. I love that he's saying feels great and if healthy and all the same things that everybody says. But again, what are you doing to stay healthy? You know, it seems like Yohan Moncada has been a guy that just continues to. I feel like he's bulked up so much, and he's another guy that I would just like to say, you know, is that really beneficial for your back? Now, again, this is hilarious that me, that has zero sense of how to stay physically fit myself, is giving professional athletes advice on how they should stay fit. I mean, this is the dumbest thing that I've ever said in my life. But one, I do know that, you know, bad backs can be debilitating. I mean, and they can shorten careers. That's for sure. I always think of Larry Bird.
Larry Bird. Yeah.
Larry Bird at the end of his career, just laying on the court on the sideline with a towel under his head because he couldn't sit anymore.
Yeah.
So it's really sad, but you know, and the back is, I don't know, you have to strengthen it from what I understand. It's not like something that's going to just all of a sudden be cured. And they were talking about possible surgery for him last year, Nick. And he never got it. So is it going to be something that creeps up and comes back at any moment? It could just like, boom, bad back again.
I had some nerves, lower back stuff years ago, a short amount of time, but I got some treatment, PT, man, physical therapy. I speak highly of it.
Mm-hmm.
And just the exercise, the treatment, and then the exercises you continue to do, you know, now it's maintained, and that there's a lot to that. And mine was just kind of like a minor, like, some sort of weird nerves in the lower back. And it was nagging me for a couple months, and did all the, you know, all the exercises daily and all the kind of stuff. So you might be able to avoid surgery. I don't know his exact situation, if he was doing these types of exercises and he got the treatments, but yeah, it's like more muscle, more opportunities to strain. I don't know if he is healthy. Yeah. Wow. I would love to see a healthy Moncada. How amazing would that be? A healthy Robert, a healthy Eloy, and a healthy Moncada. I mean, we say this every offseason. Maybe, you know, but what is it going to get the Sox? What is it really going to do for them in 2024? You know, is it just going to make Eloy expendable at the deadline?
Yeah. If they're at their absolute best and reach their absolute, the ceilings that we'd all had envisioned for those guys you just mentioned, you know, what does it do to a team that won 61 games? What's the improvement in terms of games? How can we quantify it? I really don't know, but if they're the best they could possibly be, you'd have to think it would add at least I don't know, 10 games. Is that crazy?
Maybe. I don't think it's crazy. I feel like the lack of starting pitching, and I don't know how that's going to go. You know, they're taking some flyers off some people. I mean, I know Kopech's living his best life health-wise, so who knows there.
Yeah, all right.
Everybody is. If he brings back that Fu Manchu, I think Kopech could be unstoppable. I think that is a look that I think can just be menacing. And it's a mindset.
Just mesmerize the hitter, and they'll just be lost in the Fu Manchu.
Right.
Boom.
I don't know.
Strike three, sit down.
So here we go to Andrew Benintendi, because he's working on health. He's focused on getting stronger this offseason, Pat, lifting a lot of weights, not just some weights, a lot of weights, 4 or 5 times a week. Also eating a lot more. I like this, to put on a little bit more weight, which isn't always bad because it's fun to eat. That's a quote from that's my kind of guy. I love it, especially during the holidays, and when it's like turtleneck sweater weather.
Yeah,
just hide all that stuff.
Yeah,
hide all these layers. You know.
All right. So he's going to get fat. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that'd be good. Love it. Whatever can get him to hit 8 home runs. Can we get 8 home runs out of an Andrew Benintendi, you think?
I'm saying double digits. I think he's going to get 10 home runs this year.
I feel a bet. I wonder what the over-under is on home runs.
I
We're
think
going
this
to
is
turn
what
into a
we put a meal on it.
degenerates.
We put on a soup and salad, a soup and sandwich, where we can wear turtlenecks and blazers on a double-digit Benintendi
Look at
bet
us go.
home run. Yeah. Think about, well, I mean, we do our bets closer to opening day, but I feel like I will pencil that in as something to come back to.
All right, Andrew Benintendi, double-digit home runs. You heard it here first. On good. Well,
10.
maybe not. I haven't listened to all the Sox podcasts currently, and what everybody's. So I can't say you
Yeah,
heard it here
I
first.
gotta
But I'm just
catch up
going to
on
guess.
that too. Yeah. I think we're the
Just gonna
only ones talking about it. All right. Well, before we wrap up here, and it's been a spirited show, and I appreciate you for that and all the comments and folks jumping in. It means a ton. Please continue to pass this Sox podcast along to other Sox fans in your life, coworkers, friends. If you have any Sox fans in your life, some people don't.
They're going to say if you do have any friends.
Hey, that's tough too, man. I mean, sometimes it's just like you tell somebody you're a Sox fan, and like everybody just vanishes on you.
They just
So
get up and leave. They grab their wives and leave.
we're all you and I are crazy for doing this.
Yes.
And every other Sox fan that's in it and invested and has been listening, you're all crazy too. We're all crazy together. We got to just, support each other. This is Sox therapy. So pass this along, to other folks. Mark Burley survived the Hall of Fame. I don't want to go on a huge, we've covered this a little bit. He survives another year. I don't know. What do you have? 8%, something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, has your thought on Burley as a Hall of Famer one day, has it changed at all? Where do you stand right now here?
Well, I think I can't remember. I really don't think that he is a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's a legend for us, Nick. But I can't sit there and go, just thinking back on his career and think Hall of Famer. Now, he's done a lot of great things with, less stuff than a lot of guys that have played in this league, right? That we talk about all the time. Well, this guy's got great stuff and he just can never figure it out. Let's take Michael Kopech. We just talked about him. All the talent and stuff in the world. And to this point, because of health and because of what's going on between the years, just hasn't been able to figure it out. Then you take a guy that's throwing, in the low 90s with all he has is a fastball and a cutter, basically, and a changeup, and was able to do the things that he did. Now that is like out kicking your coverage. What he
Cunning
did,
and guile.
Yes, it's almost amazing to think about what he did in his career and for as long as he did it and how productive he was as a pitcher. But I just can't say, I can't look at him and say in my heart of hearts, say Hall of Famer. White Sox Hall of Famer, Ring of Honor guy, statue worthy guy, which he is, jersey retirement guy. Yeah, all those things for us. For us, he is. That's fantastic. Celebrate Mark Burley. But, but then again, the Hall of Fame has been watered down so much. The voting is so beyond ridiculous anymore. And guys just getting in because they didn't use performance enhancing drugs it's almost laughable now. And people that are voting that haven't been I heard this on the air this week, that haven't been baseball writers in years get to vote for this. Guys that are covering the Olympics, but they used to cover baseball 30 years
and maybe
ago,
voting out of spite, voting against people or not for people just because of how they were in the media and all this other stuff. That was a knock against Dick Allen for so many years, which is just an absolute atrocity. Just horrible. I mean, Dick Allen should be in the Hall of Fame without question. I get that. I totally respect that. I think one day that there'll be, if he can stick around, and there's all these different committees, man. There's like a golden committee and a veteran honor committee and a triple. There's strange committees that I think one day he's going to get to a committee with a different generation of voters, and they're going to look at his durability, his 200 plus innings for so many years in a row, the Gold Gloves. They're going to look at like how he almost, I don't know, kind of changed the game in a way with how quick he pitched. I know that's a weird intangible that makes people uncomfortable because you can't really factor it maybe into WAR and all this other stuff that's, black and white that we hold so sacred these days. Obviously the perfect game, the no-hitter, and all-star appearances in the World Series never really got into the Cy Young conversation and was never like that dominant, touching 300 wins type of thing. But, 300 wins is no one's going to get around there. That's not how pitchers are measured anymore. It's like if you can go 4 or 5, wow, you're like an all-star pitcher these days. Yeah. So I think eventually if he could stick around and he gets to one of those committees, I think one day down the line, years from now, I think he gets in.
I would love to see it. I just, again, you think about people that are Hall of Famers and you think about guys, just think about a guy that's not in. You think of Roger Clemens, regardless of the way you think about him or the way that maybe he used performance enhancing drugs and lied about it and jerk or whatever he was. But when you think about you and I, as growing up watching a guy like Roger Clemens pitch, that guy's a Hall of Famer, right? You think about the dominant pitchers that Pedro, when he was pitching and doing his thing. I just don't see Mark Buehrle being on the same level as those types of guys. And that's the way I judge it and view it.
I get that. I think the Hall of Fame is large enough for different types of pitchers, not just one mold. Like this is like, there's not just one way to do it. And Mark Buehrle was just cut in a different way. And, so I think if the Sox were a bit more successful during his career, maybe we were on the national spotlight a little bit in the postseason more often, it might've been a different story. Perhaps.
Yeah. And did you see MC21's little check in there? That's for you, Nick. That's the
first base coach committee.
Yeah, he said MC21. I hear first base coach committee is pushing for Daryl Boston, and that's a great way to wrap up the show right there. That's fantastic.
Oh, Daryl Boston, wherever you are. Pat, this is a real treat. It is always a pleasure, my friend. I feel better. I feel better already talking White Sox with you.
And you're staying true to yourself and looking for all the positives you can. You're holding on to that New Year's resolution, Nick, to be as positive as humanly possible is great. I say we do it again next week and we'll have to figure out what we're doing for Super Bowl Sunday, buddy.
Yeah, I don't think Super Bowl Sunday will be at the same time. There's, that game kind of dominates.
We can do it at halftime. Halftime's like an hour.
That's not a bad idea. We're going to have to talk about how we're going to do that. But yeah, we'll definitely be back same time next Sunday. But folks, thank you so very much for jumping in. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Find the audio absolutely everywhere. Subscribe there too. Give it a high rating. We would appreciate that. Helps other Sox fans find us. We're on Twitter X at Good Guys TB. Got a Facebook fan page. For Pat Hester, I am Nick Murawski. Until next time, go Sox.